right now is actually, I think, a story that we've all grown up hearing, and it's a little story called the Prodigal Son. And Jesus is telling the story to the Pharisees and common people. And what's really funny is that the Pharisees were super religious. The Pharisees were the kind of people that would be like, he's wearing purple shoes. No. Get out. Go. Leave. You cannot be in here. My sister has on a hat. She would be stoned. Like, it would be over. It would be done. The Pharisees were so religious. And they're the common folk who were like, this Jesus guy is doing miracles. He's all right, I guess. But it's cool that he's talking to these two groups of people because they're so different. And he tells stories in something called a parable. And a parable is where Jesus pretty much takes a context that's relatable to what's happening in that time and date, and he makes it easy to understand. So for us, it would be like, oh, he'd be talking about Starbucks or Whataburger or the Dallas Cowboys or something. I imagine that's what Jesus would kind of tell his parables into this kind of congregation. So we're going to jump in. So chapter 15, verses 11. Jesus continued. There was a man, oh, wait a minute, time out. I'm in the wrong one. Guys, we're starting at 13.
All right.
Here we go. I'm in the wrong parable, Mom. I'm struggling.
All right.
Guys,
all
it is
right.
good.
Take your
We're
time.
going to find it. We are going to find it.
Take your time.
Yes, ma'am, I'm there. I was actually at the right place. So Jesus continued. There was a man who had two sons. The younger one said to his father, Father, give me my share of the estate or my inheritance. He wanted his inheritance early. So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had and set off for a distant country. And there he squandered his wealth in wild living. Turn up, young man. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. Okay, so bad decision. So he went and hired himself out as a citizen of that country, who sent him to the fields to the pigs. He fed pigs for a living after this, guys. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired men have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven, and I have sinned against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men. So he got up and went to his father. That was the plan. He was going to go beg his father to receive him back. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son and threw his arms around him, and he kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven, and I have sinned against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost, and now he is found. So they began to celebrate. Wow. Man, guys, if that doesn't give you chills, I don't know what does. What a crazy parable. So when I was a little kid, about 8 years old, I used to do this little thing where I would, and Mom was actually there for this, but I would go to Mom and say, look, I'm running away. I'm leaving. I'm packing a bag with nothing in it, and I'm out of here. You're not going to see me again. And usually this would happen, and I would make it just to like the edge of the street. Like I wouldn't make it very far, and I would just sit out there and pout and be like, dang it, I'm so upset. I'm not going back in there, because she's wrong and I'm right. I'm right. I'm 8. I know it. I have it all together. And then I'm gonna come back in and she just wouldn't talk to me, and I'll just be like, okay, go play a video game. So, but there was this one time where I got the audacity to run away, but I went further than I'd ever been. I don't know if she's aware of this, but I literally, I grabbed my bag and I walked to the edge of our neighborhood, which is about a 15-minute walk, and there's this long street that is like, it's freedom. Like if I was to go, I'd be like, I'm gone. I've been gone for weeks now, it's been 15 minutes. Like, she wouldn't have seen me again. I would have been gone. And I got to the edge of the neighborhood, and I sat there actually contemplating leaving. I thought about it. I was like, I'm gonna go. It's happening this time. And I think an hour passed, and I ended up walking back home, and I got to the edge of the grass where our house is, and I remember crying. I just began to cry. I was like, I don't know. Crying. It's unfair. Should have gone, should have ran with the wolves. That's what I was thinking. And so I get to the grass and I begin to cry. And I was crying simply because I was ashamed that I had gone that far away from my mother, or that far away from my family. It seemed unfair that I had just done that. And I knew right from wrong, so instantly the reaction was shameful. And I sat outside my house for 15 minutes, and I was like, I can't go back in there. I cannot approach my family after what I have just done. Well, it's getting dark, so I walked in, and Mom did the same thing she did the other times. She just kept doing what she was doing. And then probably a couple hours later, she's like, dinner time, come in, and everything was cool. So that was my story. I was really good at running away, but I was pretty bad at it at the same time. So I ran away, and Mom was just in the kitchen doing what she was doing. So, fun fact. Thanks, Mom. Great mom moment. That would have been a great, oh man, it would have been a great time to give a speech. I love you. So, we're going to go back into those verses. We're going to start back at 11. There was a man who had two sons. The younger one said to his father, Father, give me my share of the estate. So he divided it and gave it to the sons. As we go through the story, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of the younger son. The broken son, the prodigal son who runs away from his father. He runs away from the blessing that he had by his bloodline. Put yourself in his shoes for just a minute. So the youngest son was living the dream. He lived in his father's house. He had the cool video games. He had the flat screen TVs. He had a limo driver just so he could get to school. Like he was the flyest kid on the block and blessed beyond measure, but very spoiled. And he could not see that his father loved him so much that he gave him everything. Son, everything that you can see is yours. Sounds like Mufasa. He had it all, but he wanted more, and that was his problem. Dad, this is good. What I have is all right. I look on TV and I see more. It looks better. I look at my friends who have more freedom, and that looks better. I want more. So he went to his dad, and like we said, Dad, listen, I need the money. I'm just gonna go. And his father loved him enough, and as any good father would do, he said, okay, son, here's 10,000. Take this money. Go to your life. I love you so much, son. And he's like, what? I can't hear you, Dad. I love you, son. Yeah. The boy's in the car. Like, that was how he was talking to his father. But if I would have gotten $10,000 at any age, I probably would buy 1,000 more purple boots. So don't give me money unless it's, yeah. Anyway, so verses 13, we see not long after that, the younger son got all he had together and set off for a distant country, and there he squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. In this moment, the son was again living the dream. He got to Las Vegas, and they're partying, they're having a good time, and after that he's like, we're going to California, we're going to get courtside tickets at the Warriors game, we're going to live the dream. He's got the ladies, he's having fun, he's eating Whataburger every night. He's like, Greece, what's up? All day, every day. That would be me. I would be at Whataburger 24/7. I would be dead in a week. Like, He had the expensive cars, and everything seemed to be going in his favor. He was the heart of the party, and life seemed to be good. Then all of a sudden, the famine struck. Things got real. The bank account got low, and he had nothing left. No money. And you could imagine the reaction of the son when this happened. I seem to have wasted the inheritance that my father gave me. Guys, I can't go out tonight. It's not happening. I'm broke. So, we see next that. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country who sent him to feed the pigs. It was in that moment the son realized that I might have messed up. I need money, so I'm going to go get one of the lowest jobs possible. And it's just simply feeding pigs. And if we go back to the Pharisees, they were all about cleanliness. So Jesus is telling the story to the Pharisees. And all of a sudden, the son is now feeding pigs.
Mama.
And as a Pharisee hearing this, we'd be like, oh my gosh, look at this man. His son is disgusting. I don't even know what accent that is, but like, that's what the Pharisees sound like. They probably had 30 different accents because they were a mess. So, the Pharisees are hearing this, and Jesus is obviously going against culture. Here it is, the son in the pig trough, feeding the pigs. Yeah, he's a mess. So how could this happen if you're the son? I don't understand how. I thought I had it together. My friends were living the life. I saw it on TV. I was courtside with Stephen Curry. Like, it was great. But all of a sudden, I'm at the lowest of lows. Verse 16. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one would give him anything. He became so hungry, he began to eat the very food that the pigs were eating. My man went from the palace to the pigs in a week. Completely lost and broken, where he was desperate. A young man of legacy, a young man who was royalty, was now living with pigs and eating with them. And no one around him, as he would beg for food, please give me food. My hand is out, I'm starving, I don't have much, I have time. They didn't have time anymore. The friends that he went to the game with were no longer hanging out with him. Hey man, you smell weird. Like, we can't hang out with you, man. We're going to the game tonight. Like, it's just not happening. He was at an all-time low. And imagine what must have been going through his head. I have messed up completely. In verse 17, when he came to his senses, so I imagine that he was kind of sitting in there whining, and one day had an idea. He came to his senses and he said, how many of my father's hired men have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven, and I have sinned against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men. So he got up and went to his father. This son felt guilt and shame. He said, maybe my father would take me back as a servant. Just maybe. And it blows my mind that this is his language, because a week ago, he was living the dream. A week before that, he was living in his father's house. And when he tried to leave, his father said, son, hey, I love you. But he couldn't hear him. He couldn't hear his dad. So he forgot the bloodline that he was a part of. He forgot the legacy that he once was a part of. Maybe my father. He won't love me. I know he won't. I've messed up. But I guess I'll go back. So he returns to his father's house. And this is one of my favorite moments in Scripture. So he wanders back. He's a little bit lost, a little bit broken, and in need. And I imagine him walking back to his home, and if you can picture this with me, probably the land that they lived in was this like giant like valley with like rock on this side, green grass, cattle, sheep, cousins running around because it's a family reunion 24/7. Like it is the place to be. What a house! I mean, come on now. And however you want the house to be, a mansion, like a little cottage, like whatever, they had it. And I could see the son walking, and he comes between these two pieces of land, and he says, no, I can't. I'm not worthy. No, he doesn't love me. I messed up. And as people pass him by, they're like, this kid's crazy because he's talking to himself for 2 hours. Like, he's standing here having a conversation with himself in an intense fashion. I can't go. My father does not love me. I am not worthy. I cannot. No, it's not happening. And he talks himself into walking into the valley. And so, in verse 20, so he got up and went to his father, but he was still a long way off. And this is possibly the most beautiful thing. While he was a long way off, his father saw him. And I could imagine it being like he was here, and there's like acres. And so he steps up, and his father begins to sprint towards him. And the crazy thing about a man sprinting in that day and age was that it did not happen with old men. If you can picture men back then wearing dresses like down to here, and it being like really proper, it was really against the social norm for men to sprint. So again, Jesus is breaking another norm, and the Pharisees are like, he ran in his dress. Like, it is crazy. Like, it is insane that this man began to sprint towards his son, and the son has never seen this either. So the son is probably like, he is going to kill me when he gets close. I need to back up. This was a bad idea, Dad. I'm like, this is absurd what his father is doing, sprinting towards his son from a distance. And he runs up to his son, and he sees his father's eyes, and they're filled with compassion and love. And the son gets embraced by his father. And he says, Dad, I've sinned against heaven. I've sinned against you. I'm no longer worthy to be your son. Dad, I can't come home. Why are you hugging me? Why did you just break that social norm by running up and hugging me and embracing me? Why should I be your son? The father doesn't even respond. He says, go and get some rings. Go and get some new shoes because he's wearing purple shoes. Go and change my son's attire. Go and kill the fatty calf and get a dinner prepared. Get a party because we're celebrating my son who was once lost has returned home. My son who was once lost has returned home. And I cry when I think about this moment because, guys, we are that son in the story. Unworthy of love, and we wander back home to Dad. And man, I've messed up, and I'm wrong. And he doesn't take off his shoe and hit us. This man runs to his son.
Thank you, Lord.
And I think the biggest part of the story that gets me, and it's not in the Bible, but I'm sure this is how awesome this dad was. Every morning, when his son left, he got up to his porch. He sat down. He said, man, he's coming home today. And the older brother's, Dad, he's not coming home. He's not. Dad's like, I'm going to keep coming out. And he goes out again, and his buddies are out there, and they're saying he's not coming home.
Your son's, he's gone, he's lost. He's chose the life that he's wanted to live, a life of brokenness and a life that is betraying to you. Look at all that he had. And the father keeps coming out every day. Before the son even steps foot on the property, he sees his son and he runs and wraps his arms around him. And wraps his arms around him. If you haven't caught the story, and I pray you have, that Jesus is the Father in this story. That he is the Father in the story, that we are the Son. And if you thought the story was about the Son, then you missed the whole story, because the story is about the Father. The story is that the Father ran back to the Son and came and embraced him in his lowest moments. In his lowest moments. That is the story of the gospel, that we have a Father that comes and wraps his arms around us when we mess up. That we have a Father that believes in us when we go off and do what we're not supposed to be doing. Jesus is the Father in this story. And about a year ago,
Thank you, Lord.
That's not come. About a year ago, it was probably my toughest season in Hillsong, and man, I just didn't have energy. I wasn't going to class, I wasn't going to church. I was just rolling out of bed and just not doing life well. And we came across this men's event that we do once a year, and it's massive, and it has to be 10,000 men that just get together and meet, and they get to hear truth about their Father. And I just remember with how much pain I experienced with fathership, I just couldn't understand this Jesus character.
Come on,
I was like, I hear it all the time, that Jesus is my dad, and he loves me, and he's well pleased, and
Jesus.
we hear it so much. And I looked at the other guys, and I was like, man, they're getting it, but I don't get it. And Jesus worked on my heart in that year and a half, and I just remember the night being at this conference and hearing about my father for the first time, and receiving him for the first time. And I walked out of the place, and usually when someone says, you know, your father loves you, he's proud of you, and he's well pleased with you, which is truth, I'd be like, well, no, I didn't have a good dad, so I don't know about that. I don't understand that.
My.
But that night, I heard that, and I was like, man, Dad, I'm so thankful. Jesus, I'm so thankful. And I walked out and never looked back at a broken heart because I didn't understand sonship.
Amen.
Even when I was dirty, when I was full of shame, he did it straight away. It was an embrace. It was an embrace. Just like the Father in this story runs up and wraps his arms around the Son and shows him love.
Thank you, Jesus.
I've preached this sermon 100 times in the shower. I honestly have. I wish I had like 17 really cool points, but it's a beautiful story of our Father and of the love that he has for us. You guys, I want you to get this. People will say you have to get it together before you come to Jesus. But I'm telling you right now that Jesus comes to us and wraps his arms around us when we're dirty. When we have left, when we were in the pigsty, Jesus comes and wraps his arms around us. And that is the God we serve. That is the Jesus that we serve. And a lot of people today may be sitting there and thinking, well, Jordan, I don't have a father. Jordan, I've never had a dad on earth that was close in relationship, that loved me the way this dad loves. And I got this image this morning as I was kind of preparing this, and I got an image of Jesus when you were an infant, looking through this window at this adoption agency. Go with me here. Looking through this window and saying, "Oh, how old is this one? Oh, she's beautiful. I love my son. I want her. Can he play football? I want her. Man, she's beautiful." It's the way I planned it. And him seeing these children that are alone, without a father, and if you can get the idea that we are adopted into a family when we accept Jesus Christ, we are adopted into a bloodline that cannot be broken, and nothing can come in and separate the adoption process. Nothing can separate you from being a child of Jesus Christ. When you allow him into your heart, he waits at this agency through this door.
Thank you, Jesus.
And here comes a daughter, and she's 8. Oh man, I was waiting for you. For how long? For 8 years. I'm so glad you came home. And then there's another guy who walks out, and he's 40. He's like, man, it's never too late. Hug me. And he wraps his arms around his 40-year-old son who experiences Jesus for the first time. And the man looks into his father's eyes and says, man, I've never experienced this. And he was like, I was standing outside, but you couldn't see me. I was there, I was present, I was watching every action. I saw the mistake you made. I saw what you watched last night. I saw the brokenness. I saw the drugs. I saw everything that you went through, and I was standing behind the glass, waiting for you to come out, and just to see me. If you could hear that voice, that was me speaking. If you could hear that voice, that was me urging you to take another step in a season that was broken. Jesus is in the cave of adoption. And the love that comes from this adoption is that of a real father. A real father. For those who don't know a father. That is the God we serve. This word has been on my heart so much in the past couple months. Our Father loves us. He's proud. He is well pleased. And for us to sit back and say, nah, man, I can't receive that. I can't receive love from Jesus. It's a lie. The son made up a lie in his head that for some reason the bloodline related to his father was changed. That no longer he was his son. His father comes and wraps his arms around him. Says, I'm proud of you. I love you. We're going to eat. We're going to have a party. There are some people here today who have never had a father figure in their life. And today I think Jesus is saying, it'd be a good day to come home. It would be a great day to receive my love, because once you have received Jesus, life is never the same. When I was 20, I got, I say resaved, but I recommitted my life at Heartland Church, and my best friend Ryan was preaching, and I remember going in and being very broken. And this is 2014, so 2017 is not that far off. And I remember going into the church and not expecting much. He invited me out every week. Thought it'd be cool just to see him preach. And that night got baptized in the Holy Spirit and saved. And what blows me away is that I walked out of that place and I sat in my car and I breathed in and I was just like, this is different. And from that day forward, I began to walk, and I had no idea that God was going to send me to Hillsong. I had no idea that He was going to heal me of things that I was afraid that I was going to take into my marriage. And a relationship and an encounter with Jesus changes everything. Walking with Jesus changes everything. You can live off of mom's revelation of who Jesus is. You can live off of the congregation's revelation of who Jesus is, but until you get a revelation of who Jesus is, your life is not going to change the way you think it is. You can rock up to events and be like, I'm going to raise my hands, but until you have that moment with Jesus, things are going to be the way you want them to be. And I didn't expect Jesus to show up that night. It was March 6, 2014. I remember the date, and I'll never forget it.
Yes, thank you, Lord.
And I remember I just cried.
Yeah.
You know, a few weeks back, I'm sure one more story. We were helping out with the New Christians ministry at the church, and it was Holy Spirit night. And they were like, we're going to pray for people. And I was like, I'm so nervous because I haven't prayed over anyone in such a long time, Hillsong College. And I remember Jesus saying, remember when I did this for you?
Yeah.
The result. And I just cried. And I was like, man, I remember. Because here I am 3 years later.
Yeah.
And I'm walking with you.
Yes, sir.
And I don't have it figured out. I'm a prodigal son if there ever was one. But Jesus changes lives. He honestly and he truly does. And I really do believe today that there are people here who have never experienced that relationship with Jesus. That's like, man, I've never walked with him. I've never truly met him. I've never let him inside of my heart. There were others that have done like me in 2014 that, man, they took a left turn. And Jesus is like, well, come back.
Yeah.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
I love you. I'm running to you with open arms.
Yes.
With open arms.
Open arms. Thank you,
And
Jesus.
so I'm just so grateful that Jesus is in the business of restoring sons and daughters. And if there's anyone here today that, man, you are in a season where you're like, man, I have not spoken to Jesus in a long time. I don't like what's happening in our world, so I've been bitter. I'm upset. Today, I think if you would have a dad talk, son-daughter talk, father-son talk, that something is going to happen here that's going to allow you to walk out of this building different and never the same. Never the same. We serve a God who breathed life into existence. To say that I'm stuck in a season, I've been here for 2 years, I think you're limiting our God.